He left bodies, codes, and taunting letters, but the Zodiac Killer was never caught. On a cold December night in 1968, two teenagers, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, parked their car along Lake Herman Road, a quiet stretch outside Vallejo, California. It was the kind of place couples went when they wanted privacy. The evening was calm, the stars were bright, and the air was still. But in the darkness, another car pulled up and stopped beside them. A man stepped out carrying a gun. No words, no warning. Shots rang out. David was killed instantly. Betty Lou tried to run, but she only made it a short distance before bullets struck her in the back. Both of them died where they fell. 7 months later, the silence of the night was shattered again. On July 4th, 1969, Darlene Ferrin and Mike Mageau sat in a car at Blue Rock Springs, another lover's lane. A vehicle pulled up behind them, then drove away, only to return minutes later. The driver stepped out, flashlight in one hand, pistol in the other. Without hesitation, he opened fire. Bullets tore into the car. Mike survived, but barely, his body riddled with wounds. Darlene was not so lucky. She died before help arrived. Less than an hour later, the Vallejo Police Department received a phone call. The voice on the line was calm, almost polite. The caller confessed to the shootings at Blue Rock Springs and claimed responsibility for the teenagers murdered on Lake Herman Road the year before. He hung up without saying his name, but soon the newspapers began to receive letters. They weren't simple messages, they were demands. The writer insisted his letters be printed on the front page, or more people would die. Each letter contained strange ciphers, symbols, circles, and letters strung together like a code. And at the bottom of each page, he signed his name with a symbol, a crosshair. It was then that the world learned of the man who called himself the Zodiac. In August of 1969, 3 newspapers received a cipher totaling 408 characters. Within days, a California school teacher and his wife cracked it. The message was terrifying. The Zodiac admitted that killing people gave him the most thrilling experience and promised that when he died, he would be reborn in paradise with his victims as his slaves. He offered no real clues to his identity, only his warped view of life and death. Weeks later, the killer struck again. On September 27, 1969, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were enjoying a picnic at Lake Berryessa. They were approached by a man dressed in a hooded executioner-style mask, his chest marked with the Zodiac's symbol. Speaking calmly, he claimed to be an escaped convict and said he only wanted money and a car. Then he tied them up. Without warning, he pulled out a knife and began stabbing them repeatedly. Cecilia was stabbed 10 times. Brian was stabbed 6 times, but survived. Before leaving, the attacker walked over to Brian's car and scrawled a message on the door. The dates of his earlier murders, the crosshair symbol, and the words, "Buy knife." Cecilia died 2 days later. Just 2 weeks after the Lake Berryessa attack, the Zodiac struck again, this time in the city itself. On October 11, 1969, San Francisco cab driver Paul Stein picked up a passenger near Union Square. The ride ended in Presidio Heights, where the passenger pulled out a gun and shot Stein in the head. The killer tore away a piece of Steiner's shirt and calmly wiped down the cab before walking away into the night. Children in a nearby house witnessed the murder and called police. Officers rushed to the area and even stopped a man walking nearby who matched the suspect's description. But due to a mistaken dispatch describing the suspect as black, they let the man go. Many believe those officers looked the Zodiac in the face and unknowingly allowed him to vanish. The letters that followed were colder, sharper, and more confident. The Zodiac mailed pieces of Steiner's bloody shirt to prove his crimes. He mocked investigators, ridiculed the police, and threatened to shoot out the tires of a school bus, then kill the children as they tried to flee. Panic swept through California. Parents were terrified. Police cars began escorting school buses to protect the kids. The Zodiac never acted on his threats, but the fear he inspired was real. By his own claim, the Zodiac killed as many as 37 people. Officially, only 7 victims could ever be confirmed. His ciphers became more complex, his letters more mocking. One unsolved cipher remained a mystery for decades until finally cracked in 2020, only to reveal more taunts. The Zodiac gave nothing of himself away. He stayed hidden behind his words, a ghost who thrived on the chaos he created. The investigation produced suspects: Arthur Lee Allen, a troubled man with disturbing tendencies; Richard Gaikowski, a journalist with uncanny connections; and others. Each suspect had pieces that seemed to fit, but none fit all the way. Handwriting samples didn't match. Fingerprints fell short. DNA tests, years later, brought no closure. The Zodiac remained untouchable. What made him so terrifying wasn't only the violence, but his need to be seen. He turned murder into theater. He wanted headlines. He wanted his symbol to be recognized. He wanted his name to outlive him. And in that, he succeeded. His last confirmed letter came in 1974. After that, nothing. No more victims, no more ciphers, no more games. Some believe he stopped on his own. Others think he died. Some say he may have been arrested for another crime and faded into obscurity. The truth is, no one knows. More than 50 years later, the Zodiac Killer still haunts American culture. His letters are studied like scripture, his ciphers picked apart by experts and amateurs alike. Entire communities of sleuths spend their nights trying to decode the puzzle he left behind. Police files are reopened with new technology, hoping for a breakthrough. And yet, the identity of the Zodiac remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. He didn't just kill people. He created fear. He wrote himself into legend, and he ensured that his shadow would stretch across generations. The Zodiac didn't want to disappear. He wanted to become immortal. And even now, decades later, his name still carries the chill of a riddle with no answer. The Zodiac Killer remains out there in history, faceless, nameless, and unforgettable.